Mrs. Johns, this is Bryan Gailhart here. Today we're going to be learning about war. Can you guess what kind of war it is? Let's find out. Take a look at this message. Do you know what this message is? That's right. This is a message sent in 1898 by the Assistant Secretary of the Navy to the Commander of the U.S. Navy in Asia. Can you guess who the Assistant Secretary was? Take a look at this gentleman. Do you know who he is? Of course. He was Theodore Roosevelt. He later became the 26th President of the United States. He played an important part in the Spanish-American War of 1898. Wait, Spanish-American War? Do you know anything about the Spanish-American War? Let's learn about the Spanish-American War. Did you know that the Spanish-American War of 1898 did not take place in the US or in Spain? But where? By the end of 1800, Spain had lost most of its colonies. In the Western Hemisphere, Spain still held Cuba and Puerto Rico. In the Eastern Hemisphere, Spain held the Philippines and Guam. In the summer of 1898, Spain and the United States fought in a war that took place in Cuba and the Philippines. Let's explore the causes of the Spanish-American War. Causes of the Spanish-American War. Number 1, Cuban unrest. Cuba was a Spanish colony. The Spanish colonial government was very harsh on Cubans. Most Cubans wanted independence from Spain. They had fought battles with Spain over many years. Number 2, American interests. The United States and Cuba had a history of trade. American companies did millions of dollars of business with Cuba. There were many United States citizens living in Cuba at the time. Let's check on the effects of war. When Spain surrendered, it signed a peace treaty with the United States. Wait, treaty? Number 1, treaty. Take a look at this picture. It's in Paris. October 12th, 1898. That was from a long time ago. The peace treaty gave control of Cuba, the Philippines, Guam, and Puerto Rico to the United States. The United States paid Spain $20 million for the Philippines. In 1902, Cuba gained its official independence. Number 2, Empire. Wow, take a look at that view. That kind of reminds me of Hawaii. The war ended the Spanish Empire. Spain was no longer a world power. It began to rebuild its economy after the war. Let's check the impact on Florida. Florida has a long history with Cuba because it is only 90 miles from the island of Cuba. This closeness contributed to the impact the Spanish-American War had on the state of Florida. Let's find out more about Florida's involvement in the Spanish-American War. Take a look at that picture. I see people on boats. For a long time before the Spanish-American War, the Spanish colonial government in Cuba was mistreating Cubans. Many Cubans moved to Florida for safety. These Cuban Americans wanted to free their country from Spanish colonial rule. In 1898, the Spanish-American War began. Take a look at that picture. There's a family. The large Cuban American community in Florida began to raise money and awareness in support of the war. One famous revolutionary was Cuban poet José Martí. Martí came to Florida before the war began. He asked the Cuban American communities in Tampa and Key West for support. Do you know how long Spain and the United States were at war for? Spain and the United States were at war for 10 weeks in Cuba and the Philippines. How much did the U.S. pay Spain for the Philippines? This is going to shock you for the results. The answer is $20 million in 1800s. $20 million? That's a lot of money. I could probably build a bunch of schools and a bunch of hospitals with that. I wish there was no more war. If there was no more war, this is what would our world look like. Our world will look beautiful and peaceful. And then we could build our own home there. And we can build a city. This is what our world would look like if there was no more war. Thank you so much, Mrs. Johns. Wish you have a great Christmas. I'm Bryan Gailhart, signing off on FLVS News. Bye!